Welcome to the Bug Hunters Cafe. Have a seat anywhere.
Thanks, Marta. Hi, Jason. What what are you doing?
I'm reading the documentation for the trans-reality espresso machine. The left steam valve is putting out whipped cream this morning.
Why would you want to fix that?
It's the fat-free variety. Here, look through volume 87, see if you can find anything on how to change it.
Maybe Anastasia will have some ideas. She will be here soon.
Who now?
Anastasiia Tymoshchuk. She's been a developer for over a decade in both e-commerce and game development. She's currently a tech lead, helping to build an engineering culture in her team and serve her team needs as servant leader.
That's nice. We need more servant leaders in the world, eh?
Yeah, she's also one of the organizers of Pi Berlin meetup, but also she organizes Python in entire Berlin, perhaps.
Good old Python. Unfortunately, I think the espresso machine over there was programmed in COBOL, so...
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Twice. That solved the right tap dispensing sprinkles, but...
The right tap was dispensing sprinkles and you fixed it. Are you crazy?
They were garlic flavored. Anyway, they started coming from the left tap instead, so...
Oh, carry on. Hey, Anastasia. We're over here.
Hello.
Pardon the books. We are trying to fix trans-reality espresso machine.
Oh wow. With Python?
COBOL.
Oh no.
Yeah. Hey, can I get you anything? Coffee's on Soft Terrific. They sponsor these chats.
I have a special request. Do you accept any special flavor requests or just a normal stuff?
We have a rule in this cafe. Only thing we don't accept are normal requests.
Okay,
Well-
okay, yeah. Well,
How did they give me a normal coffee then? That's... Maybe I just got special treatment.
I will talk with our unicorn chef about that.
What can I get you, Anastasia?
well, I would like to have something pink and cherry flavored, so maybe cappuccino.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see. Marta can probably make one of those for you.
Thank
I'll
you.
go get that for you. Need a refill, Bojan?
Yes.
Alright. I'll get that.
So, Anastasia, welcome to our little cafe. Tell us about yourself. You can start with your deepest, darkest secrets related to Python.
Well, I have a deepest, darkest secret related to myself, if you're interested, but I can also tell about Python.
I think Python... Yeah. Okay, you can choose.
Okay, I will start with a funny fact about myself. I happen to be an engineer from Berlin, so I moved here like 5 years ago, and I'm originally from Ukraine. Maybe you noticed by my weird last name. But actually, the funny fact that I don't speak so much Russian or Ukrainian anymore, and as I'm speaking mostly English and I think in English, I am not even able to introduce myself in Russian or Ukrainian.
Well, I have the same problem with Serbian, which is quite a problem when you're living in Serbia.
Here's your order, Anastasia, and here's your refill, Bojan. You went through that first one really fast.
What can I say? So, Anastasia, here we love talking about bugs. And the crazier the better. Give us some examples.
Ooh, crazy bugs. There was one crazy bug, not my own, but in one of the teams I used to work for. It was one of the Kubernetes clusters, which was set up on bare metal by hands of our developers. So they didn't use any automation tools for that. They just went there and did the setup, which was quite interesting. And there was an interesting bug. Because of that bug, when kernel was panicking for, I think it was some either memory leak or something, it was panicking and taking all of the memory and just crashing. So whenever one developer was deploying some new version of one of the services, it was leaking the memory and then crashing the entire cluster.
Oh dear.
Yeah, which was like, if one pod is not isolated from the others, that's not nice. So the bug was not allowing us to deploy anything new into Kubernetes, which was supposed to be sort of safe, right?
Well, the way I like to say Kubernetes was a bug.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but then again, I also use AWS, and Jason has very strong feelings about that.
Yeah, I have. Well, most people who know me know I have strong feelings about a lot of things, but if it works, it works. But I do like cloud services where you can actually see how much you're spending. Personally, I mean, I'm funny like that, but
But you can do that on AWS. I always you grab a little kitten, then you take the kitten and teach it some black magic, so it casts its magic while you do calculation and some differential equations, and you can get the estimate for how much it's going to cost you this month. It's very straightforward process.
Have you ever thought about debugging printers before? I mean, it's kind of a similar process.
No, 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 no. So, Anastasia, you were talking about Kubernetes, which is always an interesting subject. Do you work a lot with Docker and containers?
Well, I do work with some. I mean, I work with people mostly at the moment. So there is some Docker involved because they're working with Docker as well.
Well, we have a running theory. Maybe you can give us your take on this, because it's just kind of a working theory. Is that bugs in an organizational structure, like in how a team communicates, can reflect in the project itself. And so if you have errors communicating among teammates, then you can wind up with very similar bugs. It's kind of, what was that law? I always forget the name of the law that that says if you do a
Grafham's
two pass, if you have a 2-part team, you're gonna get a 2-pass compiler. Have you noticed any correlation between like the bugs that show up and how a team communicates? Like, is there anything that a team can do in terms of their their own interactions that can kind of improve the stability of the code?
Yes, this is related. So basically, if people are feeling themselves accountable for the code they produce, like for the code they write, then they try to test their own solutions. So they try to catch the bugs early on, and they don't allow the bugs to jump into production, for example. But if, for example, I would write some line of code and I would check if the program is able to run. And after that, I will assume that it's fine and tests are fine, or maybe there are no tests even. I will put it into production. I will go for release. And after that, there might be a bug, just simply because I didn't check all of the possibilities that could happen. But if I would feel more like, well, if I'm introducing a new line of code, then I need to make sure that works properly. And I will spend some time for testing. Of course, that's also some time which should be accounted from product perspective, because those are different pieces of the medal, like points of the medal. If product is given too many tasks and they're all urgent, like for yesterday, then of course developers will try to deliver like as soon as possible to make customer happy, and then to have their salary every once in a while. So they will try to reduce complexity of writing tests, of testing, this kind of stuff. So then the bugs might appear. So this is also like relation of the code and people talking to each other and then keeping each other accountable, as well as the product level and also technical people.
I really love that you use the word accountability instead of responsibility, because lots of time I see people using who's responsible for this line of code in a very negative sort of way.
Get
How
blame. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how do you avoid that sort of thing?
How to avoid being negative?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how to
How
avoid
to
taking
make
responsibility? No.
Yeah, that was my first question. just don't. That works.
Yeah. How do you keep a team? You know, when it well, I guess a better way to phrase it would be, how could somebody move a team from a kind of a get blame mindset to an accountability mindset, because there seems to be a subtle difference.
Well, we don't have this culture in the organization in general. I mean, in the company I'm working for right now. But the thing is, there are different options how not to blame people. For example, we had once, I mean, not once, but just one example. Every company can have some release which didn't work well, right? So imagine situation 9 p.m. Release didn't went well, and everyone is tired. It's like 9 p.m. We did everything that we could do, and after that we had to roll back. So a lot of work, like full day of work, and then in the end it didn't work out. What to do? Usually you can go and find person responsible for that, right? Like who did make this like this? But actually, there is a really nice practice which is called 5 whys. When you ask 5 times the same question, why did this happen? First question would be, why did coffee machine produce the garlic sprinkles? So after that, somebody can say, well, I don't know, reindeer was there and he brought the bad wind or something like this. Well, then you ask again why this reindeer came to your cafe and then brought the bad wind. And then there would be an answer. And then after 5 times you ask this question, you would see the root cause, because the root cause is not the person who came or not the reindeer who came. Maybe there is a reason for that, like, I don't know, not all the environmental variables were copied into a new coffee machine setup, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the problem. So it's easy to fix instead of blaming people, right? Because you will not fix the issue by blaming people.
Or reindeer.
Yeah, or reindeer.
Every now and then, this guy in a red suit comes through with a bunch of reindeer, and he's always ordering the peppermint latte, and we really don't want to tick him off, because he has connections, so
Yeah.
he's very big in the elf community.
Also, one thing that you mentioned is late night releases. They are one of my favorite things to do, besides doing them on Friday.
Friday late night, it's the best one.
Absolutely. Only New Year's release can be that. So, how do you handle that as a team? Because usually our normal reaction as people is to say no, but clients usually have another definition of what is a good idea to do.
It's not like that all the time. So it's not like we are having those releases at 9 p.m. all the time. It just happened once because we tried to fix, and we spent like a few hours trying to fix the issue. And we actually have some people in different locations. So there is a difference in time zones. And in Germany, for example, it's 9 p.m. But in some other countries, it could be like in the morning. So it could work out, and it's fine. And yeah, we don't do it on Friday, that's for sure. We don't work on the weekends as well. and we're trying to automate everything as much as possible, so we will not have this situation like release and pray.
Yeah, New Year's Eve is another really bad time to do, especially New Year's Eve Friday evening is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, with this Kubernetes issue, like every developer was like hitting release. I mean, typing a command. Typing a command on the remote machine. So you access the machine, then you type the command, and after that you pray. Yeah.
Oh dear.
There's an article that I'm looking at here actually that Bojan found earlier in the week, and it's about a 24-year-old bug in the Linux kernel, and a team kind of found it unexpectedly with what they thought was a race condition in rsync, and they just had a bug in their tracker. There was a race condition in rsync. We should look into it. And then it started hitting them every single day, and it turned out it was actually a bug all the way back in the Linux kernel TCP implementation. It had been sitting there for 24 years, waiting, lurking in the darkness, waiting for an opportunity to strike. One of my favorite types of bugs, honestly, is the non-deterministic behavior, the Schroden bug, especially the thing that works until somebody observes it shouldn't be working, at which point it stops working. And I've talked in prior conversations about, I actually have seen this in the wild. Recently, I had code that, mind you, was working both on all of the team's computers and on the CI. It was building, it was working, code was relying on it. We didn't change the code. We didn't change the build system. And one of my interns points out that it just isn't working correctly, at which point, changing nothing, it went from building, like I had just hit the build command, it worked. He says that, I rerun the build command and it now breaks. Not only that, but it is now broken on the CI. As soon as he said it, the CI went down. It took down everything else with it. The build errors started propagating up. We literally had to kind of bypass that dependency because it was broken and we didn't know how. No warning at all. That was spooky.
Yeah. Which is why I use Python now instead of JavaScript.
Well, this was in C++, but no, actually, not even Python's safe. I was researching something in Dead Simple Python, and someone was saying, "Oh, Python doesn't have any undefined behavior." I said, "The heck it doesn't." He's like, well, "Where did you find undefined behavior?" And I showed him. It was something that was just going back to the C Python backend, and it was segfaulting. And it's like, what? How? What? It's like, yeah, this stuff lurks everywhere. Code's never done. There's always one more bug. The law of cybernetic etymology.
Yeah. Anastasiia, as a Python developer, you are contractually obliged to tell everybody how Python is the best language ever. So tell us what's the most beautiful thing about Python.
I need to review my contract.
Well, it's simply beautiful.
Excellent answer.
No, actually, the most beautiful thing about Python is the community. Because of the people, because of the support, because of open source, and all of this love to the language and to the community. So I think that's like the most valuable thing ever.
I love your answer. I could say the same thing, but I could also say it's the worst community I've been part of because it's the only community I've been part of. So it's also the best and the worst.
Why is it the worst?
Well, it's the only one I've been part of.
Nothing to compare it to. No, I think you're right, Anastasiia. The community is amazing. There's other communities in other languages where it's like everyone's like, it's my knowledge. You can't have my knowledge. Python is. I think it takes some getting used to. Tell me if this has kind of been your experience, but a lot of people I notice from my end seem to be a little bit they don't expect what they find when they walk into Python, because like you log into like the Python IRC room or whatever, and you ask a question. This happens in any Python community, and the first thing they go for is not, oh well, you have a typo here. They're, okay, what are you doing? Why are you taking this approach? Why this and not that? And the first time I encountered that, I thought, it's like, are you just saying I don't know how to code? No, but we want to make sure you actually understand why you're taking the path you're taking before you waste all your time fixing a bug that you don't necessarily need to fix. Have you observed any of that as well?
Yeah, that's a good one. I started searching for some answers on Stack Overflow. I think I wanted to write something to people, help people. I was in this moment of life when I needed to help somebody to feel myself better. And I found one question and it was not answered. And actually, a person was desperately trying to find help. And in the end, people started answering, what are you trying to solve in here, actually? So the solution was so simple. And instead of long lines of the code, instead of some algorithms, it was just a simple command. So, of course, a person was trying to debug and was asking, why it doesn't work? It doesn't solve my problem. And people were asking, so what the problem is? What are you trying to solve in here? So, yeah. And then in the end, it was just one-liner solution. Pretty nice and simple.
Yeah. Unlike Perl, our one-liners are beautiful.
I don't know. There's a whole book called Perl One-Liners that
Yeah.
seems pretty popular. So I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But then again, this is coming from the guy who likes debugging seg faults. So
Hi, Bug Hunters Cafe. Marta speaking. Oh yes, we are open 24/7 at bughunters.cafe. You can also find us on Twitter and Dev as Bug Hunters Cafe. It's been doing what? Well, we knew our espresso machine was on the fridge, but... No, we never intended it to pull whipped cream from your fridge. We were wondering where that was coming from. Yes, we're working on it. In the meanwhile, would you be able to put normal whipped cream in there? I mean, if the steam value is going to dispense something. Well, yes, I'm sure it's healthier, but... We can compensate you with a free coffee voucher. Excellent, thank you. By the way, do you know anything about garlic sprinkles? The machine's been dispensing those too. I thought not. You didn't strike me as the sort of a person who would use garlic sprinkles.
As I was saying, one of the things I admire the most about Anastasiia is that she always has awesome book recommendation. Every time I talk with her, I finish with at least 10 new books I need to read. Anastasiia, give us recommendations.
Well, I have hundreds of books next to me. I can show them. I can give it to you, just throw a book.
kind of on the spot there.
Well, I have one book. You will hear it in a second. It's about coaching, how not to jump into conclusions. It's called The Coaching Habit. I think it's my most useful, not technical book ever. It's useful because I am the same as everyone else. I like active listening. I try to do active listening, emphasis on trying. And I do as all the people. There is a trigger in my brain which starts triggering ideas of the answers and suggestions right after a person starts with, look, I have a question to you. And I have an answer to you now. And actually the hardest part is not just listen and say, yeah, sure. But actually listen and then ask questions, as many as you can in a certain form. And after all of the questions asked, you have to ask, and what else is on your mind? a few times. It's like the same approach as 5 whys, maybe 5 what else's. And after that, you would have some decent answers from a person who is seeking for advice, and then this person would either realize the answer on its own, or maybe will formulate what is the root cause of the question. Basically,
that sounds very much like a debugging process.
it is, yeah. Like
So-
those are the print statements, basically.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying like if you're helping somebody, like when someone comes in going, "Can you help me debug this thing?" That sounds like a really good place to start with it because, you look on the average Stack Overflow answer, and someone says, "Well, I'm having this bug," and half the answers are like, "Oh, you have to do this," and maybe that's we were talking about earlier about that difference between Python and C++ and the the fact that. Well, many communities actually, not just C++, but the fact that the Python community asks, "Well, what are you trying to do?" Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's so much easier to debug in Python is because people ask those probing questions like you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, with a colleague of mine, we were trying to debug a few services which were written by different people. And of course, it's hard to bring all of the developers together into one room, especially now you're working remotely. It could be like different time zones. Sometimes it's impossible. And you have to ask those questions like from yourself, like, okay, did you check like the list of the checks? First of all, if it's a Docker, then is the port the same as you're trying to open to access? So you need to check if there is a connection between the services, if you're trying to send the data where you're trying to receive it, if the contract between services is the same, which is also really important because not all the people ask if the contract between services is the same. So like, if I wrote service 1 and another person wrote service 2 and we're not talking to each other. So I sent my data and I don't care if they got it or not. And then the second person like, oh, I didn't get the request. Okay, I will wait. So it's not working. But if the entire production depends on those two services talking to each other, of course they have to talk to each other in service language, the same data model at least.
Sure. Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, the thing I found very early on is that departments love to work in some sort of isolation. And that's one thing that I love about doing stand-ups. Yeah, I'm one of those crazy people that love doing stand-ups. Because you get to hear what other parts of company are having trouble with. And we're a relatively small part of the team, so sometimes we hear people from marketing saying, "Oh, we have trouble with this thingy," and somebody from the programming will say, "Oh, I can help you automate that," and stuff like that. Basically, sharing knowledge across the organization. That's the stuff I found very hard to achieve, but once you start getting that culture, it's incredibly valuable.
I'm not sure if it was a question, but I have an answer.
Excellent.
I'm not going to use my coaching habit here. I will just tell you a story. So I used to help teams to set up Scrum as well as my sort of hobby because I really like it. But due to my first experience of Scrum, I didn't know that the Scrum might not work. If you start with a good experience and you didn't have bad experience, then of course you expect that it just works like magic, right? Like there are no bugs in this system.
It's the magical methodology. Everyone should use it. Best practice.
Yes, exactly. And I tried to use it, and then it wasn't always working. So I tried to dig deeper into the project, into the problem, and ask internet, of course. So I found a society of people who worked on the topic of zombie scrum, which is apparently a big problem. It's called Zombie Scrum. It's really interesting. There are zombies, and they even performed, I think it's from Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. They even performed a meetup while being dressed as zombie. And talking about problems with Scrum. So when Scrum is called Scrum, or maybe somebody is using another agile methodology and they're not really using it. So they pretend to use it because everyone wants it, but not everyone knows what that is and how to use it properly. And to be honest, it's really easy to make it wrong, to set it up wrong in the wrong way for different teams. There is also
maybe at this point I should probably ask you to define Scrum, because I'm sitting here a little bit behind on, like, I know the term, but I, like you said, not everyone's like super familiar with it. I'm not ultra familiar with Scrum.
Okay, so there is agile methodology, like you can read Agile Manifesto. In internet, it's about delivering things fast and in easy way, agile way, to the customer. So processes and I think people matter more than processes or something like this. I cannot state it even right now. But the idea is to set up easy process of delivering things in agile way, like fast and nice, and everyone is on the same page. So there are different methodologies, and usually people use, most of the teams I used to work for, they used either Kanban or Scrum. Those are just the names of methodologies. They have a bit different set of rules, let's say like this, and different setup, different Jira setup, I would say. You heard about Jira, right? So Scrum, it has standard set of the meetings, like daily Scrum, which is just a daily to quickly update each other on what is happening, what was happening yesterday, what is happening today, and what would be happening tomorrow for you personally, and to fix the blockers. Like if you have any kind of issue, you can just say that and seek for help. But the problem with that meeting, so if you go like meeting by meeting from the standard structure, there are like lists, not even one list, but lists of problems with it. So the stand-up, I gave one talk, and actually I did research what was the problem with stand-ups, and I found one quote somewhere in internet. We had the shortest stand-up ever this time, just 59 minutes. So stand-up is called stand-up because people are standing, and it's made like this so people would not talk a lot because it's uncomfortable to stand for a long time. And if people are sitting, they're comfortable, so they can sit like for hours, and of course they can talk for hours. So,
and then they invented the stand-up desk, and everyone got used to it, and the stand-up ceased to be a motivator.
Yeah, I didn't think of that issue. Yeah, that's true.
It's like, now we just need to do the daily treadmill now. It's like you have to do it while you're on a treadmill.
Or a plank challenge, like you have to.
A person who's speaking has to plank face down on the meeting table or something.
For like 5 minutes, I'm dying, just faster.
Absolutely. It's like, or maybe, the classic, pass the microphone thing, except it's a 20-pound weight. And you have to hold it over your head while you're talking.
Oh, no.
Really strong biceps that way.
That might work.
New technologies here.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not a terrible idea, as long as it doesn't become ableist for the people who can't, hold 20 pounds over their the head. To be fair, I probably couldn't do that with my shoulders.
Well, one time I was working in a team where, me being my usual a bit larger person than normal, let's say it like that, and everybody else was really into bodybuilding. So I'm walking over there, and everybody's so buffed, and I'm like, damn, I really need to work out on myself. Yeah.
Oh man! Combine the fitness program with a daily stand-up. It'll be the
But that's the
shortest
plan.
meeting. Yeah, absolutely. IT has to do the status report while doing chin-ups or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, we got one good recommendation for a book. So, what else is on your mind?
About the books.
About the books, about the life, about everything.
Well, life is great. You just need to know how to find your way living in these times. And for remote work, as I'm now like remote worker since April, I think, like since the lockdown, I started working remotely. I learned so much. I never learned that much in normal, usual times. So I'm kind of happy by this learning. And I think the most useful learning is how to organize all the remote meetings, kickoffs, all of the architectural brainstorming sessions, yeah, all of these workshops, and also using Zoom breakout rooms.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about the Zoom fatigue everyone's kind of going through.
Yeah.
So, tell us your secrets. How do you make Zoom work?
I just attended a few workshops. The first workshop was about domain-driven design, and the second was about team topologies. I didn't read the book because, I don't know, it just didn't happen to be that I read the book. I always wanted to, but I was always afraid to read that huge book about domain-driven design. So I attended the workshop, and that was actually great. So they used the Zoom breakout rooms, they used the Miro boards, they used event storming, they used ritual descent. So those are just the types of workshops which really work for technical people and for non-technical. And after that workshop, I was so impressed. I started searching in internet how to use Zoom efficiently, how to do breakout rooms, how to do polls, how to mute people when they enter so they would not interrupt the speaker. And I tried everything with my teams, and I did also design sprint activity remotely, which was my first remote time. And the first big failure. After that, I learned how to do event storming, how to do ritual descent, and it was a great success. So, like, first you have to fail to succeed in the future.
Well, I have a question about design sprints. Basically, those are the sprints clients are the least willing to pay for because we usually do them at the beginning of the project. So, what is your advice about them? What's their purpose? How do you do them?
Um, well, I can share how it succeeded for me. So the first time I did run it, I mean, not me myself, but with a team. We did run it offline, so it was like a real event. We did it for a week. There were, I think, 3 developers, one PO, one designer, and at the end we made a prototype. And after that, we set up all the sessions to test the prototype. It was super valuable because in a short time we had architecture, we had data model, we had prototype which was clickable, and we didn't write the code, but we had the idea how all of it has to work. After that, we improved it and then started writing a code before even doing some crazy programming for like ages. And actually, customer was super impressed by this. because in 1 week we did so much. They saw how it is supposed to work. Why did it fail before? Next time, because it was all online. I was not quite in the online working mood yet, so I didn't know how to work with the teams online, and trying to set up the same sort of activities online. It was long, it was not quite engaging for everyone, just because of sitting in the long running meeting. It was not enough for people. And actually, while it was a big failure because like people were not super interested in sitting in long meetings for like a week, of course, it was also a biggest development for the team. We didn't have requirements at that moment. We knew that customer wants feature A, feature B, and feature C, and that's it. Just the names, A, B, C. So they needed the reindeer, they needed sparkles, and they needed, I don't know, rainbow. And we're like, okay. And we have a website. So you're supposed to have, instead of a website, a reindeer, a rainbow, and the sparkles. We just sat together and decided, how do we do that? How does other website do the same stuff? We did the research, and then in the end, we had so many ideas. We're still using them. We just picked one of the ideas and then implemented in the end. We even wrote the code, so it was high fidelity prototype. That's the prototype which you can actually click, which is a real case scenario, like a live prototype. I think until now, it's like half a year later, we are still using the same initial idea. So when there are no requirements or they're like too vague, it's really easy and nice just to bring an entire team of developers, QAs, technical, non-technical people, and then test, even not necessarily with the customer, but with other departments maybe. It's also beneficial because hiring somebody for testing is not easy as well.
Makes sense. I just had a thought, and you can tell me if this sounds valid or not. For the teams who are like really tired, because you mentioned that one of the tiring things about working online is sitting in an hours-long meeting on and on throughout a week. And I think the most fun I ever had at a conference was Python Pizza New Year's, because they were using this platform called Gather.town. And you were there too, I believe, actually. You gave a talk there. And I thought it was kind of a neat concept because, you could walk around this space, and it was really kind of fun during the breaks because, we had people broke off in these little groups and we're just kind of chatting organically. And, I know GatherTown has these, collaborative tools, like collaborative editing tools integrated as well. If you have a small team, it's actually free. Is that something that you think could potentially work for a team that has to do something like a design sort of thing where, because imagine a normal space, you're walking between different groups and you got different things going on, and is that something you could see working for that sort of purpose remotely?
To be honest, it was a lot of fun for a conference. Yes, that's true. Like you can walk around as well as at the conference. But at work, if you have to focus on work and you have to finish some task, it's better if there is some organizer who just drives the flow of the teamwork into one direction and keeps everyone accountable in finishing, like reaching the goal. For example, if the goal is to finalize the feature, like feature request, or create architecture, it's better to find a way either to split the team into smaller groups, like breakout rooms, for example, and then bring them together. So the most efficient way of working together for technical and non-technical people I used in like recently, yesterday actually, was the time pressure, like the limit of the time. If you have, for example, 1 hour and you need to produce a solution, or you have 2 hours, you need to find a way of working. It should be structured, there should be an agenda, and you should stick to it, because people are tend to just jump into different directions and different areas. For example, if there is a feature which needs architecture, you could go into, I don't know, deployment. You could go into Google versus AWS, Azure, whatever. So you could drive into different direction. Instead of that, you need to decide, for example, let's say you have Python and you have relational database. You don't want people to start talking about rewriting the code in Rust with NoSQL databases, right? So you want to keep track of this. And you need to deliver something in the end. You have pressure from the customer. I mean, not you, but a PO definitely has. And if necessarily developers, they don't feel this pressure, that's because there are other people who are trying to take this pressure out. But it is there because customer wants it ASAP, like yesterday, of course. So when there is a limit of time and there is a expected outcome in the end as an architectural diagram, and there is one person who is setting up the environment, how should it work? Like, let's say, I don't know, ritual descent. There is a goal, there is an idea, and then there is a group of people working. You work for like 20 minutes, then you come back to the big room, then you split again to different rooms, then you work again. And then you know that you have 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes you have to put the idea together, right? So you will work faster, you will focus on something that matters on the topic itself. You will not go into different directions because you will try to solve the issue. And engineers, specifically, and me as well, as an engineer, we love searching for great solutions in a short amount of time, and also in finding the best solution, and also the easiest one.
Yeah.
Of course.
And sometimes going a bit tangential. I actually have a book recommendation now.
Which one?
Well, it reminds me of, Bojan's getting out his notebook. And this one is probably one you've already read, Anastasiia. It sounds like it's something that you'd be familiar with. But it's called The Pomodoro Technique by Francesco Cirillo, Cirillo. Anyway, it's a great time management technique personally. But he talks in there about teams, and it's basically what you were talking about. How you have a larger goal, but you break off into micro teams, and you have one timer. So a Pomodoro is just a timer. It's a 25-minute timer, and you can set it for different amounts of time. But experimentation has shown that 25 minutes just works the best. And he talks about having the micro teams, and then at the 25-minute timer, then you have the heads of each of the teams stay. But when the 25-minute timer goes off, you actually rotate so you can get some fresh ideas into each of the groups. And then you do that for like 2 or 3 Pomodoros, maybe 4 Pomodoros, and then at the end of the time, so you have that time limit. But at the end of the time, everyone gets back together to compare notes, and he actually details that in the book. So you mentioned that reminded me. That reminded me of that. Each micro team actually manages their own Pomodoro, though. But yeah, there's it goes into detail. It's a really good. It's a really good book.
It sounds pretty similar.
We got lots of good book recommendation, and as I always love to say, the most important things for programmers are the soft skills, not the technical stuff.
Yeah, I train interns, and that soft skills are the make or break stuff. It's like interns can always learn another language. All the time I have people coming in and like, I don't know C++. Is that a problem? I said, no, it's fine. Most people who come in don't know C++. You'll pick it up on the job. But can you manage your time? Can you write down what it is you've learned? Do you know how to ask questions? Do you know how to look things up? Those are the skills that, and everyone needs to develop them, but those are the skills that really define whether or not they're going to succeed is those soft skills. You can always learn more technologies. I wish more hiring managers knew that. Most of them are like, well, do you have 8 years experience with Kubernetes? It's like, no one does. But I know how to do research, and they go, oh, well, that's nice. Next, and they miss the point. It's like the soft skills are the important part.
Yeah. It's almost like whiteboard programming is very, very inefficient, to say the least.
No, really? Now, in the defense of whiteboard programming, I actually have debugged on a whiteboard before, but that on the job. But that was because I was trying to visualize a fairly complex algorithm, and I was determining whether or not, an adjustment to the algorithm would actually work. And turns out it wouldn't. But I was actually on a whiteboard that time.
There's always an exception.
On the whiteboard. And the traceback.
Yeah. Whiteboard with a little debug button and yeah.
Yes, please. Can you run this?
Yes. Oh, that would be wonderful. Whiteboard that could actually execute the code. Yes. Oh, that'd be glorious.
There's an idea for an app. If somebody makes it, we want 10% of your equity each.
No, we don't. But you might want to buy a nuclear silo for it. Inside joke. Anyway.
I think we can wrap it up.
We probably can. My coffee cup is empty, so yeah.
Anastasia, it was super awesome to have you as a guest. You were fun as always, and I learned a bunch of things.
Yeah, thank you for a great coffee. It was really fantastic, and thank you for inviting me. I met the unicorn around today, and I have my reindeer around here. The one which I mentioned. That's why I was mentioning reindeers, because,
Yeah, because you got the one around there, and questioning whether or not he's involved. No, we'll keep bugging that espresso maker. It'll, we'll just keep asking why and what else. But thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. And hey, if anyone wanted to find you online, where should they go?
Well, they can join the Pi Berlin meetup, as always. We have meetups every once in a month. And also, I have Twitter account and my website. You can share that in the link as well.
Absolutely. We'll do that. Thank you very much.
Bug Hunters Cafe. This is Marta. Yes, we are located online at bughunters.cafe and on Twitter and Zev as Bug Hunters Cafe. Oh, were those your garlic sprinkles? Yes, I'm sorry. Our trans-reality espresso machine has been on the blink. We're trying to fix it. Yes, absolutely. Just one question. Why garlic sprinkles? Oh, that makes sense, Mr. Van Helsing. Oh, I'm glad you like the music. It's provided by audionautics.com. We have a link on our website. Well, we hope to see you soon. Just maybe don't bring your work with you. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Afternoon, Marta. How's your shift been?
The espresso machine is acting up. It's dispensing whipped cream and garlic sprinkles.
Oh, you just have to flip the switch on the back. There you are, back to normal.
106 volumes of documentation and no one thought to document that?